Air India just dropped the aviation industry's biggest bombshell of 2024. The flag carrier of India has decided to completely restructure its fleet strategy, turning its back on Boeing in favor of Airbus in a move that nobody saw coming. With hundreds of aircraft on the line and billions of dollars at stake, this decision will reshape not just Air India's future, but the entire global aviation landscape. What drove India's national airline to make such a drastic change? And how will Boeing recover from this devastating blow? To understand why this decision has shocked the aviation world, we need to examine Air India's troubled relationship with Boeing. Air India has been struggling with one of the most complex fleet management challenges in aviation history. The airline currently operates a mixed fleet of Boeing and Airbus aircraft, including aging 777s, 787s, A320s, and A330s that have been plaguing operations for years. The maintenance costs alone have been astronomical, with some aircraft spending more time on the ground than in the air due to part shortages and technical issues. The airline's operational efficiency has suffered dramatically because of this fleet complexity. Pilots require different type ratings for each aircraft model. Maintenance crews need specialized training, and spare parts inventory becomes a logistical nightmare when dealing with multiple manufacturers. Air India's on-time performance has consistently ranked among the worst globally, largely attributed to these fleet-related complications. Customer satisfaction has plummeted as passengers experience frequent delays and cancellations. The airline's reputation, already damaged by years of government ownership and mismanagement, reached new lows. Load factors dropped significantly as business travelers and premium passengers switched to competitors with more reliable operations. Financial losses mounted quarter after quarter. The diverse fleet structure meant higher training costs, increased maintenance expenses, and inefficient route planning. Air India's management realized that without a dramatic fleet overhaul, the airline would continue bleeding money while losing market share to more efficient competitors like Indigo and SpiceJet. The breaking point came when several Boeing 777s were grounded simultaneously due to engine issues, forcing Air India to cancel dozens of international flights and compensate thousands of passengers. This incident highlighted the urgent need for a comprehensive fleet strategy that would prioritize reliability, efficiency, and passenger satisfaction over manufacturer loyalty. Air India's relationship with Boeing dates back decades, with the airline being one of Boeing's most loyal customers in the Asian market. The partnership seemed unbreakable, with Air India operating numerous Boeing 747s, 777s, and 787s across its international network. However, cracks began appearing when Boeing's delivery schedules became increasingly unreliable and aircraft performance failed to meet promised specifications. The 787 Dreamliner saga became a particular source of frustration for Air India. Promised as a revolutionary aircraft that would transform long-haul operations, the 787s delivered to Air India suffered from numerous technical problems. Battery fires, electrical system failures, and structural issues grounded the fleet multiple times, costing the airline millions in lost revenue and passenger compensation. Boeing's customer support deteriorated significantly during this period. Response times for technical queries increased, spare parts availability became inconsistent, and promised software updates were delayed repeatedly. Air India engineers reported feeling abandoned by Boeing's technical support team, especially when dealing with complex maintenance issues that required factory expertise. The relationship reached its lowest point when Boeing failed to deliver promised fuel efficiency improvements. The 787s were supposed to reduce Air India's operating costs by 20% compared to older aircraft, but actual performance fell far short of these projections. This discrepancy forced Air India to revise its route planning and pricing strategies, ultimately impacting profitability on key international routes. Trust eroded completely when Boeing's internal documents revealed that the company was aware of certain design flaws, but failed to communicate these issues to Air India during the procurement process. This lack of transparency violated the fundamental principles of the manufacturer-airline partnership and set the stage for Air India's eventual departure from the Boeing family. Recognizing Boeing's vulnerabilities in the Indian market, Airbus launched an aggressive campaign to win Air India's business. The European manufacturer presented a comprehensive proposal that addressed every pain point Air India had experienced with Boeing. This wasn't just about selling aircraft. It was about offering a complete solution to transform Air India's operations. Airbus demonstrated superior customer support by establishing a dedicated team specifically for Air India's requirements. This team included engineers, training specialists, and logistics experts who worked exclusively on Air India's account. The level of attention and customization offered by Airbus was unprecedented in the industry, and directly contrasted with Boeing's increasingly impersonal approach. The technical specifications offered by Airbus were compelling. The A350 promised better fuel efficiency, lower maintenance costs, and superior passenger comfort compared to Boeing's competing models. Airbus backed these claims with detailed performance data from other airlines operating similar aircraft, providing transparency that Boeing had failed to deliver. Financial incentives played a crucial role in Airbus's successful pitch. The manufacturer offered attractive financing terms, including deferred payment schedules and performance guarantees that would protect Air India from the disappointments experienced with Boeing aircraft. Trade-in values for Air India's existing Boeing fleet were calculated generously, making the transition financially viable. Perhaps most importantly, Airbus demonstrated flexibility and customization options. Unlike Boeing's increasingly standardized approach, Airbus was willing to modify cabin configurations, entertainment systems, and even certain technical specifications to match Air India's specific operational requirements. This willingness to adapt convinced Air India's management that Airbus would be a true partner rather than just another supplier. Air India's decision to order 250 Airbus A350s represents one of the largest single aircraft orders in aviation history. This massive commitment signals a complete strategic shift that will transform Air India from a Boeing-heavy operator to an Airbus-dominated airline within the next decade. The order's scale demonstrates the confidence Air India has placed in Airbus's ability to deliver on its promises. The A350 order is structured across multiple variants to serve different market segments. The A350-900 will handle high-density routes between major Indian cities and international destinations, while the A350-1000 will serve ultra-long haul routes to North America and Europe. This dual-variant strategy allows Air India to optimize capacity and range for specific route requirements. Delivery schedules have been carefully coordinated to align with Air India's fleet retirement plan. Older Boeing 777s and 787s will be phased out systematically as new A350s enter service, ensuring minimal disruption to operations while maintaining route coverage. The transition plan spans 8 years, allowing adequate time for pilot training and maintenance preparation. Economic benefits extend beyond the aircraft themselves. Airbus has committed to establishing maintenance facilities in India, creating thousands of local jobs and reducing Air India's dependence on overseas maintenance providers. This investment in Indian infrastructure strengthens the partnership while supporting the government's Make in India initiative. The order includes comprehensive training packages for pilots, cabin crew, and maintenance personnel. Airbus will establish a dedicated training center in India, eliminating the need to send staff to Europe for type rating courses. This localized approach reduces training costs while ensuring faster crew availability for new aircraft deliveries. Boeing's 777X was positioned as the perfect replacement for Air India's aging 777 fleet, but the airline ultimately rejected this proposition for several compelling reasons. The 777X's development delays raised serious concerns about delivery reliability, with Boeing pushing back entry into service dates multiple times due to certification challenges and technical issues. Fuel efficiency comparisons revealed that the A350 outperformed the 777X on most metrics that mattered to Air India. Independent analysis showed the A350 consuming 8% less fuel per passenger on comparable routes, translating to significant operating cost advantages over the aircraft's 25-year service life. This efficiency gap made the business case for the 777X increasingly difficult to justify. Maintenance cost projections heavily favored the A350 over the 777X. Airbus's modular design philosophy means components can be replaced more easily and cost-effectively compared to Boeing's integrated systems approach. Air India's maintenance teams, already familiar with Airbus systems through their A320 and A330 operations, could leverage existing expertise rather than investing in new training and equipment. Passenger experience became another decisive factor. The A350's cabin environment, featuring lower cabin altitude, higher humidity, and reduced noise levels, significantly outperformed the 777X in passenger comfort metrics. For an airline rebuilding its reputation, offering superior passenger experience was crucial for competing against Gulf carriers and other premium airlines. Boeing's pricing strategy for the 777X failed to account for Air India's financial constraints and competitive requirements. Despite the aircraft's technical capabilities, the total cost of ownership calculations consistently favored the A350, making it impossible for Air India's management to justify choosing Boeing over Airbus from a purely financial perspective. The loss of Air India represents a catastrophic blow to Boeing's commercial aviation division, with immediate financial implications extending far beyond the canceled orders. Wall Street analysts estimate that losing Air India could cost Boeing over $15 billion in potential revenue, factoring in aircraft sales, spare parts, maintenance services, and long-term support contracts. Stock market reactions were swift and severe. Boeing's share price dropped 6% in the first trading session following Air India's announcement, wiping out nearly $8 billion in market capitalization. Investor confidence has been further shaken by concerns that other airlines might follow Air India's example and switch to Airbus for their fleet renewal program. Production line implications are equally troubling for Boeing. The 777X program, already struggling with certification delays and limited orders, faces reduced economies of scale without Air India's contribution. Fixed development costs must now be spread across fewer aircraft, potentially forcing Boeing to increase prices for other customers or accept lower profit margins. Supply chain partnerships are under stress as Boeing suppliers grapple with reduced order forecasts. Companies that invested heavily in 777X production capabilities based on optimistic delivery projections now face excess capacity and potential financial losses. This ripple effect threatens the entire Boeing ecosystem and could impact future aircraft development programs. International market share erosion accelerates Boeing's competitive disadvantage against Airbus. In the crucial Indian market, Boeing's presence will diminish significantly as Air India's fleet transition progresses. This reduction in market share makes it harder for Boeing to justify investments in regional support infrastructure, potentially creating a negative feedback loop that drives more customers toward Airbus. Beyond aircraft procurement, Air India has unveiled a comprehensive transformation strategy that positions the airline for aggressive expansion and market leadership. The Airbus partnership enables route network optimization that was impossible with the previous mixed fleet structure. Simplified operations will reduce complexity while improving efficiency across all departments. Network planning benefits enormously from fleet standardization. Air India can now optimize route scheduling, crew utilization, and maintenance planning around a unified aircraft family. The A350's range capabilities open new nonstop routes that were previously uneconomical with older Boeing aircraft, including direct connections between Indian cities and secondary destinations in North America and Europe. Operational efficiency improvements extend beyond flight operations. Simplified spare parts inventory, unified maintenance procedures, and standardized crew training programs will reduce costs while improving reliability. Air India expects to achieve 15% cost savings within 3 years of completing the fleet transition, money that can be reinvested in passenger experience improvements and route expansion. Brand repositioning accompanies the fleet modernization program. Air India is leveraging the new aircraft introduction to completely refresh its image, from cabin interiors and service standards to digital technology integration. The A350's advanced passenger entertainment systems and connectivity options support Air India's goal of competing directly with premium Asian and Middle Eastern carriers. International expansion plans center around the A350's capabilities. New routes to Australia, South America, and secondary European cities become viable with the aircraft's range and efficiency characteristics. Air India aims to double its international capacity within 5 years, directly challenging the dominance of Gulf carriers in connecting Indian passengers to global destinations. Air India's strategic shift creates ripple effects throughout India's rapidly growing aviation market. Domestic competitors must now reassess their own fleet strategies as Air India gains significant operational advantages through its standardized Airbus fleet. The efficiency gains and cost reductions achieved by Air India will enable more aggressive pricing and route expansion that directly impacts market dynamics. Indigo, India's largest airline, faces intensified competition on international routes where Air India's new A350s will offer superior passenger experience and operational reliability. The budget carrier's A320neo fleet remains competitive on domestic routes, but Air India's transformation threatens Indigo's plans for international expansion using wide-body aircraft. Government policy implications extend beyond Air India's transformation. The partnership with Airbus strengthens India's negotiating position with Boeing, while demonstrating the country's willingness to diversify aviation supplier relationships. This shift could influence future defense procurement decisions and encourage other European manufacturers to increase their investments in Indian aviation infrastructure. Manufacturing opportunities emerge as Airbus expands its Indian operations to support Air India's fleet. Local production of aircraft components, maintenance services, and training programs will create thousands of high-skilled jobs while reducing India's dependence on imported aviation services. This industrial development aligns with national economic development goals. Regional connectivity connectivity improves as Air India's efficiency gains enable service to smaller cities that were previously uneconomical to serve. The standardized fleet reduces operational complexity for domestic routes while freeing up resources for network expansion. Rural and semi-urban areas will benefit from improved air connectivity as Air India leverages its cost advantages to justify new route development. Facing the largest customer defection in its commercial aviation history, Boeing has launched an unprecedented damage control campaign aimed at preventing further airline departures. Senior executives have personally visited major Boeing customers to reassure them about the company's commitment to customer support and product development while offering unprecedented financial incentives to secure new orders. Product development acceleration represents Boeing's primary response strategy. The company has announced expedited timelines for 777X certification and delivery, promising enhanced performance specifications that will exceed Airbus A350 capabilities. However, industry experts question whether Boeing can deliver on these ambitious promises given the program's history of delays and technical challenges. Customer support improvements include dramatically increased staffing levels for technical assistance, expanded spare parts inventory, and faster response times for maintenance issues. Boeing has established regional support centers in key markets and hired additional field service engineers to provide on-site assistance when airlines experience technical problems. Pricing strategies have become increasingly aggressive as Boeing attempts to match or undercut Airbus offering. The company is reportedly offering unprecedented discounts, favorable financing terms, and trade-in packages that significantly exceed standard industry practices. These financial incentives demonstrate Boeing's desperation to prevent additional customer losses. Strategic partnerships with suppliers and leasing companies aim to create alternative pathways for Boeing aircraft sales. By working with major lessors to place Boeing aircraft with smaller airlines, the company hopes to maintain production volumes while rebuilding its reputation with direct customers. However, this strategy may simply delay rather than solve Boeing's fundamental competitive disadvantages. Air India's dramatic fleet strategy reversal has sent shockwaves throughout the global aviation industry, forcing airlines worldwide to reassess their own manufacturer relationships and fleet planning strategies. The decision demonstrates that even historically loyal customers are willing to make radical changes when performance and support fall short of expectations. Airbus gains significant momentum in the competitive battle for wide-body market share. The Air India win provides compelling reference material for sales campaigns with other airlines considering fleet renewal programs. Airbus can now point to one of the world's largest fleet transformations as evidence of its superior value proposition compared to Boeing's offerings. Supplier relationships throughout the aviation ecosystem face increased scrutiny as airlines demand higher performance standards and more comprehensive support packages. Component manufacturers, maintenance providers, and training organizations must adapt to airlines' growing expectations for integrated solutions rather than standalone products or services. Financing markets react to the changing competitive dynamics between Boeing and Airbus. Aircraft values and lease rates for different models reflect the shifting preferences of airline customers, with Airbus aircraft commanding premium pricing while Boeing values face downward pressure. These market movements influence airline fleet planning decisions and manufacturer profitability. Industry consolidation accelerates as smaller players struggle to compete with the scale and efficiency advantages achieved by airlines operating standardized fleets. Air India's transformation demonstrates the benefits of focused fleet strategies, encouraging other carriers to simplify their operations even if it means abandoning historical manufacturer relationships. Executing Air India's fleet transformation represents one of the most complex logistical challenges in aviation history. The airline must coordinate the retirement of 150 Boeing aircraft while simultaneously integrating 250 new Airbus A350s, all while maintaining continuous flight operations across 100-plus destinations worldwide. This intricate ballet requires precise timing to prevent service disruptions that could further damage Air India's reputation. Pilot retraining programs form the backbone of this transition strategy. Air India must convert over 800 pilots from Boeing to Airbus type ratings, a process requiring 6 to 8 weeks per pilot in specialized simulators. The airline has established partnerships with training centers across Europe and India to accelerate this process, but the sheer volume means some pilots will wait months for available slots. During this transition period, Air India faces potential pilot shortages that could force route cancellations. Maintenance infrastructure overhaul presents equally daunting challenges. Air India's engineering teams must completely reorganize their spare parts inventory, replacing millions of dollars worth of Boeing-specific components with Airbus equivalents. Hangar modifications are necessary to accommodate the A350's dimensions, while specialized ground support equipment must be procured and deployed across Air India's network. Route planning becomes exponentially more complex during the transition phase. Aircraft schedulers must account for pilot availability, maintenance requirements, and passenger demand while juggling two completely different aircraft types. The A350's superior range enables new direct routes, but Air India must carefully time these launches to coincide with aircraft deliveries and crew availability. Financial planning for this transition requires unprecedented precision. Air India must manage cash flow carefully as it pays for new aircraft while disposing of older ones. The airline's finance team projects temporary increases in operating costs as dual fleet operations strain resources, but these investments should yield substantial savings once the transition completes. Insurance costs, pilot training expenses, and infrastructure modifications create significant short-term financial pressure that Air India must navigate carefully to avoid cash flow problems. Customer communication strategies aim to minimize passenger disruption during this massive change. Air India has developed detailed contingency plans for potential delays or cancellations, including partnerships with other carriers to accommodate stranded passengers. The airline views this transition as an opportunity to rebuild customer trust through transparent communication and superior service delivery once the new aircraft enter service. Air India's monumental shift from Boeing to Airbus signals a fundamental transformation in how airlines evaluate aircraft manufacturers, prioritizing operational reliability and comprehensive support over traditional loyalty relationships. This change establishes new benchmarks for manufacturer accountability that will influence aircraft procurement decisions for decades to come. Boeing faces an existential threat to its commercial aviation dominance. The company's market share in wide-body aircraft has already declined significantly, and losing Air India accelerates this downward trend. Boeing must now prove that it can deliver not just technologically advanced aircraft, but also the superior customer support and operational reliability that modern airlines demand. The 777X program's future depends heavily on Boeing's ability to demonstrate these capabilities to remaining customers who are closely watching the company's response to this crisis. Airbus leverages this victory to reshape industry competitive dynamics. The European manufacturer now possesses compelling evidence of its superior value proposition, using Air India's transformation as a powerful sales tool with other airlines considering fleet renewal. Airbus's integrated approach, combining aircraft sales with comprehensive support services and local infrastructure development, becomes the new industry standard that competitors must match or exceed. Emerging aircraft manufacturers observe these developments with intense interest. Companies like Comac from China and other regional manufacturers recognize that the Boeing-Airbus duopoly shows signs of vulnerability. Air India's willingness to completely abandon a long-standing manufacturer relationship demonstrates that airlines will consider alternative suppliers if they offer superior value propositions. This precedent could open doors for new entrants to challenge the established order. Customer expectations reach unprecedented levels as airlines demand accountability from aircraft manufacturers. The Air India decision sends a clear message that poor performance, inadequate support, and delivery delays will no longer be tolerated, regardless of historical relationships. Manufacturers must now invest heavily in customer support infrastructure, spare parts availability, and technical assistance to retain their customer base. Innovation acceleration becomes essential for survival in this new competitive environment. Both Boeing and Airbus must accelerate their next-generation aircraft development programs while improving support for existing products. The pressure to deliver superior fuel efficiency, passenger comfort, and operational reliability intensifies as airlines demonstrate their willingness to switch manufacturers based on performance metrics rather than brand loyalty. The The global aviation supply chain adapts to these changing dynamics as component suppliers, maintenance providers, and training organizations align with winning manufacturers. Companies throughout the aviation ecosystem must choose sides carefully, as supporting the wrong manufacturer could result in reduced business opportunities. This realignment creates both risks and opportunities for suppliers willing to adapt to the new competitive landscape. Air India's decision to shift from Boeing to Airbus marks a pivotal change in the global aviation industry. With billions of dollars in orders and Boeing's reputation at stake, this move highlights that customer loyalty is secondary to performance and reliability. As Air India embraces its new Airbus-powered future, Boeing faces the challenge of retaining customers. The aviation landscape will undoubtedly be transformed by this bold choice. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.